Welcome back to the 8th part of the Gloomwood inventory tutorial. In this part we're going to be going over the briefcase. So we're going to be making our actual player inventory now. Before we made some kind of chest, now we're going to make it the player one, so the one that animates and opens just like in the game. The first thing we want to do is we want to import our skeletal mesh and our animation because we don't have those yet. You'll find it in the same folder as in the first part, but I'll put another link in the description obviously so you can find it right here. So let's go and bring those in. So in our assets, skeletal mesh, once we're in here, we want to pull in our suitcase open. And there's also suitcase anim open, just import suitcase open and it should look like this. It should be in mode skeletal mesh normally. No, so we want to make sure, we want to make sure we change this right here. So our skeleton, we want to remove it. And we don't want to import animations. We just want to import the skeleton itself. So if we do import, this should give us our briefcase. We have suitcase open physics, and suitcase open animation. And so we need these 4. So the anim, or the anim is pretty much, one called anim is this. It's specifically the animation where it just opens up. So just leave it like this, and we have exactly what we need. So next step is our new actor. Instead of a chest, we're going to have a suitcase. So right click, blueprint class, actor, a_suitcase. Double click to open it. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a skeletal mesh. This skeletal mesh, we're going to use the one we just imported. So search for it in here. It should be our suitcase open. You might want to rename them because suitcase open isn't a good name for this, but it's okay for now. We want to add our widget component, our widget interaction component on top of it. And finally, this time we want to add a camera. And the camera will be, I think, relative to the skeletal mesh. So attach it to the skeletal mesh here. And finally, we want our AC inventory 3D. And specifically 3D, not the AC inventory, the normal one, because we just want to handle the 3D here. Our character already has the AC inventory itself, its own inventory. So compile. So actually we don't. So for the camera here, we want to put it at 170 minus 20 and 151. And it's going to be at minus, on rotation, it's going to be minus 40 on the Y. And 180 on the Z. And so what this does is it just kind of gives us a view on the inventory. And actually I just realized the skeletal mesh should be at 0.5. Should be a bit smaller. And so now this is different. We're going to need to change this. Sorry, no, I got that wrong. The camera should be attached to the scene root. So attach it to the scene root. And now we'll re-put these values in. So 170 minus 20 and 151. 151. And the rotation is good. There we go. So this is what it should look like. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect, as long as you have a view on your actual inventory, that's what matters. Next, we're going to need to update our widget because it's not correct at the moment. We want to change this, our widget class, to UMG grid. That. We want to make sure it is 1920 by 1080. We want to make sure it is draw at desired size and that the pivot is set to 0, 0. And to get this to work, we want to make sure it is attached to a specific part of the skeletal mesh. So in our parent socket here, we want to make sure we press the search. And what we want to look for is platform here, just platform. And so now if we move this, it's going to be, if the platform moves as it does in our animation, our widget will be attached to that bone itself. And so we want to move it here just so it's in the top left corner again. So minus 0.9 for that, and 1.4 on the Y, and 0.2 on the Z. And 90, on the Y rotation. And for scale, we're going to put it to 0.028. No, 0.028. So it's going to be very small. So now if we compile, we should have what we want. And the last thing we need to do is we need our AC inventory here. So AC inventory. And this is going to be a reference to the inventory we'll be using. So right here, AC inventory, object reference, and it needs to be exposed on spawn and instance editable, or in the opposite way around. And so the reason we have this here and not as an actual component is because we're going to set it on spawn when the player opens their inventory. Because as I've said multiple times, I think throughout the series, the inventory itself for the player is on the player actor. It is not on an inventory that we're going to spawn. It is on the player. So that's why we have it here. Now, for now, what we're going to do first is we're just going to do our begin play. And we're not going to do any spawning. First, we're going to get this working. So what we want to start with is we are going to get our skeletal mesh here. And we're going to say play. Every time we open our suitcase, we actually spawn a brand new one, which isn't great as far as optimization goes. It would be better to have it just disappear or remove its collision, but we're just doing it this way here. So the reason that allows us to do is say, well, on event begin play, we just open the inventory, and we do that by playing the animation. Now for the animation to play, because by default, if we look at our skeletal mesh, it won't understand what we mean, but instead of using animation blueprint, what we can do is we can replace it with a specific animation. So selecting use animation asset. And so here we have an animation we want to play. And so the animation is the only one we have, which is open the suitcase. It doesn't need to be looping. It doesn't need to play by default. It starts at 0 and that's it. So now if we play this, it will just automatically open on spawn. So let's try by adding it into the room or into our world, and if we play, it should open up. There we go, so it is open. So it lagged a bit there, I'll just try and redo it. There we go, so the animation finishes, it opens, no problem. Next step is changing the player's view on the inventory, because if we were to, for instance, open the inventory like it does now, we wouldn't be able to see anything from it. It would be pretty much useless. So we need to make it so that the angle of the camera adjusts to it. So to do that, there's a function in Unreal which is called setViewTarget with blend. And to use that, we need to get our player controller and call that function, because it can only be called from the player controller. So setViewTarget with blend, plug it in here, and the new target is self. So what this does, takes in an actor as the new target, and what it does is it will change that as the new camera you're viewing with. So what that means is it doesn't matter if you have a camera component. What matters is that you have an actor with a camera component within that actor. So that's how it tests here. And these different things allow you to change how it eases in, eases out as it changes. Because right now, if we, for instance, run this, let's say play, it'll teleport our player camera to the box immediately. But that's not very nice, especially when you open the inventory and it would just snap immediately to that view. So instead, we're going to tell it to take 0.625 seconds to make that transition. So if we play now, as you can see, the camera moves all the way around. So that will happen obviously when we open the inventory, which we will make appear in front of us. So it will be a bit of a smoother transition there. Grab your 3D inventory, drag it in here now, and call initialize. Because we just spawned our display of the inventory, well, we can initialize it on begin play here. Now, next what we need to do is we need to do the opposite. What happens when we close the inventory? So a new function here, or a new custom event, sorry, so search for custom events, CE underscore close inventory. And so with close inventory, what we do is we're going to get our skeletal mesh, and we are going to set play rates to be -1 so we can invert the animation so that we can close the inventory. Next, we need to set the position for how we run our animation. So we need to say set position to our 1. And so what 1 means is, I'm pretty sure it means the end of the animation. And so finally, the last thing is we're going to say play animation. Sorry, just play, not play animation, just play. Will work fine. There we go. So if we want to test this, let's just go here and say delay. and I'm actually going to remove this because it's going to bug otherwise. We're going to say delay for 2 seconds, not 22. And then we're going to call close inventory. So let's play. And now it should close. There we go. So that's exactly what we want. And we can remove this from here. And so finally here, after we've played our animation, we want to tell it to delay for the same 0.625 seconds, which is pretty much just the duration of the animation itself. So we wait until it's done pretty much. And then we say deinitialize, because now that the inventory is closed and we no longer see within the suitcase, then we can say, well, deinitialize the items, destroy them, we don't need to see them anymore, and then we can say destroy the actor, like this. So in our case, this, just a reminder, this suitcase is specifically for the player. That's why we destroy it at the end, because in the case of our chest, or our chests here, obviously we don't touch them and say destroy them, because there's no reason to do that. So the final step we need here is we need something that we made previously to handle situations where we do not have an actual inventory on our actual suitcase or our chest. And that was our link inventory here, our event dispatcher. So we're going to call that here by clicking the plus on the 3D inventory. So click right here. And all we have to do is get a reference to our 3D inventory, say set AC inventory. Set inventory, I believe we called it, inventory reference. And we just want to set it to our AC inventory right here. Now, as I mentioned before, this could be a null reference because right now the inventory is already existing in the world and we never set our AC inventory. So this isn't going to work. It could even cause like an error. So if we run this, it may not work. Obviously, as you can see, nothing appears because it doesn't know what we're talking about. Let's do that next. And to do that, we need to go into our, I believe, our handler again. So in our AC handler here, we can close the suitcase. We shouldn't need it anymore. And we want to get rid of this one here. Let's go into our AC handler here, and we're going to pretty much rework this. So I'm going to move everything down because we actually need a bit more space here. I'll remove that for now. So what we need is we're going to start off with a reference to our suitcase. So we'll call this suitcase reference, and it's going to be of the same type, A_suitcase. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to drag this in, right click, check if it exists on started. If it does, then we destroy it. Otherwise, we create it. So let's just move this down a bit. We're going to start obviously with creating because we can't test the destroy if we haven't created it yet. So spawn actor from class is what we want here. And we're going to be looking for our A suitcase. And so for our AC inventory, we just want to say get owner. We want to say get components, by class. Go. And what we're looking for is our AC inventory. And so we'll plug this in here. And now we need our transform because we need to tell it where to spawn. So make transform like this. There we go. The values we want is 200, -70, and -89 with a rotation of 170. Obviously, you're free to tweak these values. They don't matter at all. It just depends on how you spawn it or where you spawn it. The reason these values are so small is because we're actually just going to attach this to the owner. That way it's going to be in relative space. So we're going to set this obviously to our suitcase reference here. And we're then going to say attach actor to actor. And the parent actor is going to be our get owner here, and make sure you choose the component. And so here we can actually do a neat trick to fix what we had before on our event tick. Because right here we have our show mouse cursor, which we get from our player controller, which can take a bit of time, which isn't worth it. So there's an alternative, which is very simple, is we remove this. We just directly plug this in here. And instead of doing it how it works here, we're going to make one change to our class defaults. All we want to do is say that we don't have tick enabled, because if tick isn't enabled, then this doesn't run. And all we have to do is say, well, if we just spawn our inventory, then we can say set tick enabled, not set actor. Make sure you say set actor, set component, sorry, tick enabled, and set this to true. And when we leave or close the inventory, we'll do the opposite. We'll disable the tick. So here we can still call our open UI, because that's what we're doing now. We're in the UI. And so let's do now a test, see if this works, by doing play. And if you press tab, it should appear. And as you can see, our camera zoom stored it, and we have our items, because it already knows what we're talking about, because we've told it to use the owner, or in our case, our player character, and get its AC inventory, and to see and place that AC inventory in this actual suitcase. And so if we press tab now, it would normally close. Now, if we go and check, for instance, our player character, let me just play to get it a bit easier here. Third person, there we go. And let's just double check its inventory to see if that was indeed correct. Yep, 2 items, an L block and a T block. Perfect. So let's close this and do the actual close of the suitcase. So once again, our briefcase, or our suitcase, we want to reference, and we're going to say close inventory, so that it actually closes itself physically and destroys itself. And then what we'll do is we'll say get owner, and this is going to be our player character, and we're going to do the same thing for the camera. Set view, sorry, not like this. Get player controller is what we need to use to call this. Set view target with blend. Plug this in here. New target is the owner. Just line these two up with a bit of space. Then we close our UI, so CE close UI. And we say set component tick enabled to be false once again, so it doesn't do the information. So let's try this again. We press tab, it opens, we zoom in, our mouse can go and move, no problem. We press tab again, and it closes. I just remembered I forgot to put this here, so that's the reason it kind of snapped. If we put 0625 again, it will move the same way. So let's do that again. Tab, it zooms in, tab, it zooms out, and it disappears. And this is always going to be relative to where the player character is facing, because we're using obviously the local or relative location and rotation, so it is based on which way the character is looking, not the camera. So if we look at this, it will turn around. So that does it for this part. It's going to be a lot shorter. Once again, as in the previous part, the next part will be out tomorrow, so that we can kind of wrap this all up this week, hopefully. If you want these parts already commented, you can check down in the description or go to my Patreon to get it. Thank you to everybody on Patreon who is supporting me, and thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in the next part. Goodbye.